Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you here on Coffee with CEF. We missed a few of you last week due to a communications error we made by sending out the incorrect Zoom link in our RSVP receipt. But rest assured, we have patched up the leak, and we hopefully are all here today and ready for an outstanding second episode. In our off season, we worked behind the scenes to craft a new schedule for this season and ensure that we continue to bring you the very best our Catholic community has to offer our students, families, and ultimately our future. We also brainstormed a bit to figure out new ways we could elevate this experience for all of you. And we do hope that this season is just as good as the experience you've come to expect. If we haven't met or you haven't joined us in a while, I'm your host, Johnny Munoz, and I am the Engagement and Stewardship Manager for the Catholic Education Foundation of Los Angeles. As you've noticed, and like Jerry mentioned, I am not in my cubicle. And so rather than going into the office, we've created a Coffee with CEF studio in my garage. So that's something that's new this year for sure. And I hope that everything goes well with audio for the coming episodes. Another thing that I am excited about is our commitment in creating a moment for us to start off each episode by coming together and thanking God for the opportunity he has given us to all connect in his name and to continue to do his work. So I will invite all of you to take a few seconds to yourself and thank God for all he has done and continues to do for us, especially on this Ash Wednesday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, I'm going to cover a few housekeeping items before we get underway to help you prepare for today's session. First up, as always, we want to make sure that you are looking at the top right corner of your screen, just in case you want to make sure that your visuals for today are nice and working well and you can hear everybody. So in order to focus on whoever's speaking at that one moment, select speaker view. And if you want to see everyone else who's in the room with you and who's zooming along this morning, press gallery view and you'll be able to see everyone's faces. As a reminder, we try to keep everyone's microphones muted, but do not fret, as we do encourage you to interact with our guests this morning in the form of any questions and or affirmations you may have. So please feel free to do so by entering them into the chat feature below, and we will attempt to address them throughout the show. And lastly, if you happen to encounter any technical issues this morning, I have my colleague Sandra who will be helping us today. So Sandra, could you unmute and introduce yourself?
Of course, Johnny. Good morning, everyone. Happy Ash Wednesday. I'm Sandra, the Communications and Graphic Design Coordinator with CEF. If you have any questions, difficulties, please send them my way in the chat feature or any questions for a guest. I will make sure to forward that.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sandra. Rockstar as always. Thanks. So if this is your first time that you are joining us for Coffee with CEF, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. The Catholic Education Foundation provides tuition awards to thousands of students every year, thanks to the tremendous and passionate support of our donors, corporate entities, family foundations, and board of trustees. We believe 100% in what we do, and we are very proud to always say that 100% of all contributions go directly to funding tuition awards for our Catholic school students to obtain the quality education they deserve. We started Coffee with CEF with the hope of connecting our constituents and loyal supporters to our Catholic schools in a time full of unprecedented realities. And now 3 seasons in, we're happy to continue sharing inspirational content and stories with all of you. We are very, very honored this morning to hear from a tremendous leader with a distinguished background who has been serving school communities in both New York and Los Angeles for countless years. Her experience as a professional violinist includes studio film, television recordings, and performances on such projects as Fox Simpsons and Spider-Man 3, and with renowned artists and ensembles, including Andrea Bocelli, Pacific Symphony, John Williams, Il Divo, Kanye West, Josh Groban, Stevie Wonder, Diane Warwick, Barry Manilow, and Christina Aguilera. And so without further ado, we are so very proud to introduce Victoria Lanier, Executive Director of Education through Music, Los Angeles. Victoria studied violin at the Juilliard Pre-College Division, graduated with honors from Princeton University, and received her Master of Music Education from Teachers College, Columbia University. So while in New York, she developed a passion for working with youth from marginalized communities and ensuring that all children receive equity and access to quality music education. Lanier was a program coordinator for Education Through Music from 1999 to 2003 and taught violin, mentored teachers, and designed an integrated string curriculum. Since moving to Los Angeles in 2003, Victoria has worked to bring music and music education to under-resourced and marginalized communities. In 2006, she founded Education Through Music Los Angeles as the first national affiliate of Education Through Music in order to see that every child receives sequential, comprehensive music education in school. She's been recognized for working to remove systemic barriers and transform school communities by the LA Mayor's Office. She's been a featured speaker for Disney Imagineering Ideation Summit, KUSC, and KPCC Spotlight on the Arts, and joined a team of 8 arts leaders in 2018 for a global conference on Theory U through the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. Under her leadership, Education Through Music LA has grown to currently serve over 19,000 students. We are so happy to have you, Victoria. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Johnny. It's so great to be here with you all this morning.
We're so happy to have you. So with that being said, I'm going to just jump right into asking the question that we love to ask all our guest speakers. Victoria, what have you brought to drink this morning? And let us know if there's if this is your usual drink that you have in the morning, or is maybe a special occasion beverage.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So this is my usual mug, I guess. Before I turn it around, I got it about 7 years ago. We, through Education Through Music LA, hadn't done a lot of marketing, and so got this wonderful opportunity to join the do-gooder activities, and basically you get paired up with filmmakers. We ended up winning a whole bunch of awards, and not, it was our story, but combined with a filmmaker who was able to tell it in a very innovative but authentic way. Okay. And so one of the, I guess, prizes was pairing up with Tech Soup. And so this is a Tech Soup cup. And I love the size of it. I love the shape. But I am drinking green matcha tea. I am a tea drinker through and through. No sugar added.
Oh, so. That is amazing. That's good. Very good for the soul is what I hear. That's something that I want to try and get right this year. Feeding my soul. Oh, that's amazing. I appreciate it. And also, let's see. I guess we'll just go right into the questions that we have for you this morning. And so one thing that I wanted to know, and I think would be very helpful for our guests, is just as a music lover and practitioner, what would you say moves you to share your talents with the world?
Yeah, I have just been so privileged and fortunate to grow up with music, not because, my parents did not grow up with music. They were immigrants, and they somehow got the notion that music was important for children, whether it's because they saw their friends give their children music. And so when we were growing up in public school in New Jersey, thankfully the schools then had music where I was growing up. And so had general music, orchestra programs, and my parents saw that, I genuinely loved it, signed me up for extra violin classes. And so, yeah, I think early on, music was just a part of our life, and my siblings also had music. And again, so fortunate that we had a public school system that believed in music for every child. Like I mentioned, general music, orchestra, choir. I was generally a shy kid, very reserved and shy. And for whatever reason, Ms. Miller kept giving me the solos in like 4th and 5th grade, and I was terrified. Come to find out a few years later, I have perfect pitch. So basically, for those that don't know, it's like a color. You can see that, here's my matcha green tea, pack. It's green, right? So if there's a note played on an instrument or sung, I can identify the pitch name of that. And so I didn't know that, until later on in my life. But I guess maybe that's why I was given the solos, but again, terrified. And so music, though, I think became a way that I could build my self-confidence. Again, for someone who was very shy growing up, having the confidence to get up on stage and to perform, being responsible for the music that I put out. And, you know, I think early on when that notion of, hey, sharing your voice isn't scary and it shouldn't be scary, you know, whether children are given that through being able to articulate their ideas. If they're not, then music can be that vehicle, that agency where children and even adults find their voice through music. And so I think that became that for me, which then transferred over into other areas of my life. And now, you know, you can't get me to be quiet. And so you know, I think I became very serious with my violin playing, probably around high school, where my parents said, okay, you know, I was doing a lot of different things. I loved visual arts, but they're like, you got to focus, you know, and hone in on what it is you really want to do. And so that became violin for me, became very serious, you know, joined the Juilliard pre-college program and was around just very high achieving musicians and artists, and just saw, oh, the possibility, you know, is there if that's something I wanted to do for, you know, for a professional career. I didn't quite know at that point. My teacher, Juilliard pre-college, said, you know, you should think about Juilliard. And I thought, you know, I'm someone who loves to learn a lot of different things. I am sort of that student that I think because I was more quiet, I was always absorbing things all the time. And I'm constantly trying to learn from every experience, from everyone around me. And therefore went to a liberal arts college. And even through, you know, my undergrad, I saw my friends and classmates sort of know exactly what they wanted to do right when they got in and could plan out their 4 years. And by, you know, graduation, they would have a job. And I was not one of those, which was kind of depressing for me, you know, to go through undergrad, but yet kept up my violin. Again, like part of my identity that was so ingrained in me at that point, and met so many of my friends, and you know, the joy that it brought my life. And so was given a lot of opportunities. I was able to sit concertmaster in, you know, my undergrad orchestra, went on tours with them, was still able to, because of the proximity to New York City, was still able to take a train into Penn Station and continue my lessons even throughout college. And so, yeah, I think, you know, even through undergrad, like not knowing what to do, but still like finding my voice through music. I thought maybe medicine, you know, but then realized, nope, definitely not for me. I am someone who, like, I get hurt. I was like ice skating once, and I fell down, thought I'd hurt my arm. Yeah. I fainted on the ice. You know, not a good thing if you're going to faint, you know. Poor guy, like this like young teenager tries to help me. He's like, what's happening? And, you know, but then I was married. So my husband was able to like carry me off the ice. But no, I'm not one to do well with like with medicine, and realize no, organic chemistry was not something I loved to learn. So, but I knew that I wanted something where I could engage with people still, and I, more than anything, knew that I wanted to be in a service, you know, agency, one that allowed me to help people. I think was the most important aspect of whatever I did. And you know, what that would look like wouldn't really emerge until after I graduated from college. My first job was with Education Through Music in New York City, and it's a funny story. I with, you know, my then fiance, so he's, you know, we met when we were in college, but we were both looking for jobs, saw an ad in the New York Times for teaching with Education Through Music in disadvantaged schools, and put my resume in the fax machine, and 2 minutes later get a call, hey, we'd like to interview you. So, you know, the rest is history. Here I am, you know, 22 years later. That was 1999. So,
right.
You know, sort of, you know, sharing the joy of music and music education, but, you know, continued my life that parallel as like an aspiring professional violinist. And, you know, I think this is, you know, sort of a gift that's been given me, and I've been blessed with music my whole life. And I love working with children. I think that first job helped me find my calling, which it just made sense, like working with children, lesson planning, you know, classroom management never was difficult for me. And I think it's because naturally maybe I am childlike. I mean, I can understand children and where they come from, like
Right.
what makes them motivated to learn. And there's so many different motivations. So it's like if you can tap into each one and
Yeah.
where they come from, what they bring to the classroom. I mean, they are not empty vessels. They bring their
Hmm.
life experience. They bring their background, heritage, their vision for the world. And I see myself in a lot of them. I think back to one of my classes, again, my first year, where the classroom teacher would drop off the students and would say, oh, like this child, tends to talk
Hmm.
out loud and, is maybe, they get labeled very quickly. And
Sure, sure.
I saw them all as, these are bright, young, excited individuals who they want to be challenged. They want to be nurtured. They want to learn. They want to grow. And whether a child was rambunctious and couldn't sit still, or whether they were shy and reserved, or maybe it's a studious child, it's appealing to each one. And I think through music, I quickly saw how it became an equalizer, so for that child, I think back to his name was Vinny, and he was, yeah, he was very rambunctious and couldn't sit still. But through music, he gained
Had a
discipline,
channel. Yeah.
the discipline to say, oh, I can't just run around with this violin in my hands. And oh, I have to follow a sequence for how to carry myself and hold myself. And there's a proper posture. And oh, if this is going to work, with the whole class now as an ensemble, I can't just do what I want. And so in those experiences, as someone who gets to work with children, they teach you a lot about how you communicate. So again, through music, but also music teaching, I was able to additionally hone my voice to think through how can I communicate in a way that is going to illuminate, what it is we're trying to achieve, in this moment.
How beautiful. That's beautifully said. Thank you so much. I couldn't have asked for a better answer. That's moving me to think about the ways that I approach my daughter and I approach, just any kids in general. There's power in communication and interaction and connection. And so that's well said. Well said. I'm so glad. Another thing before we get into a video, because I know you have like a video for us that sort of kind of guides us through maybe the transition and the pivot that we've all had to kind of endure in this past year. And so education through music pre and then now post last March. I just, that was one of the questions and you answered it already was, did you always want to be an executive director? Did you always see yourself sort of running a nonprofit? Or was that something that God sort of just guided you down that path? And I believe that you answered it very succinctly. And so I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing at Education Through Music.
Oh, thank you. I think oftentimes, when you're busy, and certainly I think early on in my life, my parents instilled like a very hard work ethic and, and if you're going to do something, be the best at it. And I had to sort of retrain my thinking that, you can't be the best at everything. And so I've sort of tweaked their, mostly my dad's, sort of emphasis on that to be whatever you do your best at it, rather than be the best, because it's not, about competing with others. It's really, looking at yourself and are you putting your best effort through that? Because of that, so busy performing and also teaching, and in addition to education through music, it was, tapped to run one of Carnegie Hall's high school programs, and then was also working with New Jersey Symphonies, their inner city programs in Newark, and 7 days a week. I don't know that at that point someone would say, "Oh, you're going to start the Education Through Music Los Angeles affiliate, and you're going to be executive director, and you're going to reach 19,000 students by 2021. Like I probably would say, you're, no way, there's no way. But again, someone who is generally optimistic, I generally like to see the cup half full. I think those are the things, if I could, help affect the world in a positive way and we're here for a short time. Like at the end of, my life, what is it that I've done to leave this world in a better place? And so I think after 4 years of working with New York, a lot of those programs and education through music, after 1 year, they're like, Victoria, you're so good at teaching. You should train new teachers. I mean, that was after 1 year.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh my gosh, I have so much learning. I have so much more, to learn. And so therefore, joined Teachers College, for my master's in music education. But I look back on that and think about how all the dots sort of connect, and the like stepping into things that might have scared me, certainly like first year teacher, getting in front of a group of kids, like I'm going to do it, and I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm not going to be great maybe the first time around, but you hone it and you work at it. And I am someone who likes to think very deeply about what it is I'm doing. And so I think life informs, teaching. I think, if you're open to it and receptive, you'll grow and it'll come back, in ways that's unexpected. And so after 4 years, working with about 1,000 students, my husband, who is a film composer, said, I think we need to go to Los Angeles. That's where, the industry is. I was very sad. At that point was working with so many wonderful students and programs. And he said, honey, there are children in Los Angeles. And I had to say, okay, I will go to Los Angeles. And again, didn't know anybody in Los Angeles. Scary prospect to go out
very
to.
Trusting, of course, for the process.
Yeah. But stepped into that, and at that time also was accepted into a program called the Henry Mancini Institute, which was a pre-professional orchestra for young artists.
Okay.
And it was all fully paid for, room and board. So it was like, okay, this might be a nice timing, went out and, got to play for some amazing folks in the industry, then got more and more jobs. I was doing some off-Broadway stuff in New York, but, certainly. So again, my parallel life of getting to perform and be a professional artist, but also working in education because I had done some outreach programs at the same time, performing in schools. And every time I would bring a concert, they would say, this is wonderful. Our kids loved it. And yet they're not even getting music themselves. Can you help us? Can you help bring a program to the school? And hearing this over and over, it just dawned on me, why isn't there a program like Education Through Music in Los Angeles? Who is doing the work of restoring comprehensive music back into public schools and those who are under-resourced? And within 3 years, just learning the landscape of Los Angeles County, realizing, okay, this is a need. There's access over here, and I think a pivotal moment for me was, as I'm trying to, balance 7 days, very busy, my life and all the teaching I was doing at that point, performing and doing outreach programs. I was on a session, it was a live performance at the Kodak Theater with Dionne Warwick, Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder. And it was a long day. It was like a 6-hour day. And by then I had already started Education Through Music Los Angeles, but I was busy getting grants and trying to write, and put all these plans together, and just sort of stressed and thinking about what I needed to do here, even though here I am on this, job. But there was some downtime, artists were trying to figure out what they were going to perform. And I just thought about how much money was being poured into this part of music and arts. And down the street in Hollywood, there wasn't even a music program. And it became clear that, okay, I have an opportunity to maybe connect the dots in this way, for artists in the industry, really, how are we going to continue culture? How are we going to continue these audiences that, we see out in, in the Kodak Theater, now Dolby Theater, but how, where are the audience members going to come from if kids are not even growing up with music and the arts? And so at that point, it was a concerted decision to stop taking a lot of performing jobs and to really just hone in on what I was doing. So yeah, it's crazy. I think at some points and early in the life of education through Music LA, wearing sort of the executive director hat, the program director, many hats as, fund development. I mean, it was, wearing so many hats thinking, oh my gosh, as the executive director, I get it. I get maybe why I loved to learn growing up. It was like, I was very well-rounded, and that has sort of served me well in this position, and certainly learning new things every day and running a very dynamic organization in a very dynamic world. I think, it's been, looking in retrospect like, oh, yeah, that wasn't too far off the mark, in terms of being executive director. It sort of makes sense looking back.
Yeah. Wow. And another thing too is I'm sure possibly the video may answer that as well too, but say maybe some of the practical pieces of what you guys do. How many schools do you guys provide your services to, and how many of them are Catholic schools? And if you could just fill us in a little bit on some of those fun numbers that we all loved in here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've grown this is our 15th year. It's so exciting. We started in 2 schools, 800 children. Our 2 schools were Castellar Elementary and St. Sebastian. And it was exciting to see the program in action. And so basically what we do is restore a sequential comprehensive music instruction for every child as a core subject.
Okay.
And basically that's our non-negotiable, that it's like math, like reading. Plato has that quote, I would teach physics, philosophy, and music, but above all music, because in music are the keys to learning. And I think, when we see music as a language, it has its own theory. There's a way to express and speak the language, and musicians from across the world can join musicians from America, and it's like it's a shorthand of how to communicate. Every culture, every heritage has music, and so it is really the universal language. And so we teach it as really a robust subject, and don't say, oh, it should be for kids who want to join. But why is it that we're not saying it is, for every child as part of a core curriculum? And it is actually mandated by the state of California with benchmarks. And so again, there's skills, concepts. We also train our music educators, and we know that every teacher comes into this work at a different place. But one of our tenets is the training, because we know some may be new graduates who need that opportunity to make mistakes and to figure things out, much like I had to, in my first job. I was so grateful for the mentors and the professional development. And, what's Bloom's taxonomy for like an artist? It's like, oh, here's a world of education. Here's, a book, Teaching as a Performing Art by, Saracen. Like these are the things that, as an artist, perhaps, how do we see education as its own type of art and skill set? And so, again, I think, this is where we've dug deep, and we provide also instruments as needed, and work very closely with each school partner and our districts to customize and personalize the program. So it's not just a cookie cutter. It's not just, this is what we think you should have. It's, here are the tenets of a strong music program. There are some non-negotiables, just like in math, in reading. You're not going to say, do whatever you want, right? But let's do it in a way that is responsive to our community. Let's do it in a way that meets, benchmarks, so that we know that, at the end of the time a child graduates, they have something to show for in that art form. So now, 15 years later, we're at 46 partner schools, reaching over 19,000 students. 6 of those 46 are parochial schools. And we're just so proud of all the schools, that we work with, because it's really about them taking the vision of how to create a long-term sustainable program, where we come in as a partner, not as someone who dictates what they should do, but it's really, how can we come alongside, to advocate and to support your vision of music for every child. So it's like teaching someone to fish, for themselves. And I
definitely.
think that's, the greatest asset that we can bring.
Yeah, it's very essential. I think it's very special that you guys do that as well too. It's the intentionality behind it, and not, like you said, not cookie cutter, and not just so that way they just attend 30-40 minutes of it and do maybe nothing with it. But yeah, that's amazing. In 20 years, I mean, it seems like you are in the right position, in the right role for what you're doing, and how you're reaching so many of the students within our community. So that's very, very special to hear, and I'm very happy. Did you want to possibly share that video if you have it on hand?
Let me share that. And this is a look into just a little bit about our story again and how we've pivoted. And this is told from really the voices of 3 of our teachers, with just a look into what they are experiencing, and this was presented at our recent 15th year celebration virtual benefit. So let me make sure I can share this.
I mean, it's fitting too, because it's very appropriate. So sorry. Yeah, we're all in a virtual world. And so just, continuing that impact that you're seeing with your students and having these testimonies, I thought was just so special for us to share with the rest of our audience too.
Okay, let me go ahead and optimize. I know I have to learn to click the share sound and optimize screen. All right, let me know if you can see this.
We can, yes.
This is ETMLA's 15th year serving the children in LA County, providing sequential and concrete music education to their regular day.
We teach children singing, playing percussion instruments, playing the recorder.
I would get to school early, sweep up my rug, get my room clean, set out all my instruments.
We do 2 big concerts annually.
There's never a dull moment. I mean, how could there be when I'm faced with so many personalities at once?
And I've definitely seen a lot of enthusiasm from students whenever they come to music class. They never want to miss school. They want to come. They come excited. They always ask me, "What are we doing today, Mr. De Leon? What are we going to learn today?"
It would just be an experience all day of students coming in, making music, spreading joy, dancing with each other, sharing musical ideas.
And I find a lot of pleasure and enjoyment seeing these students perform at their best.
Let's be honest, teaching music out of all the subjects has got to be the most exciting job.
There was never a quiet moment in my music room. Once the pandemic hit and schools closed, we really needed to search for a way that we could still reach our students and provide the same quality music education that they were receiving in person.
I still remember when we got the call in March, one by one, as each school or district called saying, "We have to shut down."
There were a few instances where we even thought that ETMLA was going to be at a halt.
So it was definitely a scramble to get our teachers online, to get our students online with us, and also to reimagine how can music education take place when students have smaller access to instruments, they can't sing together on Zoom, they can't dance together.
We didn't stop music. We continued music education.
Music goes on, no matter what else is happening around the world. The music must continue.
Today, a regular lesson takes place all online via Zoom.
Hello, come in. It's time to meet.
We're speeding up to an allegro tempo, okay? Let's see if we can do it.
Composers typically use Italian words to express how loud or soft they want the music to be played. The Italian words for these dynamic levels are piano, mezzo piano.
I myself have the pleasure to teach through Soundtrap. Soundtrap allows us to teach composition. It allows us to teach form. It allows us to teach about the different colors of instruments and instrumentation itself. which is a really important skill for students.
A lot of our music classes now consist of, hey, go find some spoons, or go find some pencils that you can use as rhythm sticks.
Boxes or coffee cans or maracas, made out of rice in a container, and then just shake it and have that be an improvised instrument.
And so our students are finding creative ways to engage in music, even though they're not together in my classroom.
ETMLA had the initiative and the capacity to be able to send some instruments to these children's homes, such as egg shakers or recorders, which are two instruments that I utilize in my music instruction on a weekly basis.
Even though we're distant, it feels like we're together because we can still see each other's joy and our smiles, and we can still hear the music making happening.
It was difficult to adapt. It was difficult to transition all of our learning that happened in the classroom now virtually, using so many other technological resources that we weren't used to using as much. ETMLA really stepped up and they provided for us teachers so many resources.
ETMLA's mentorship and professional development has given me so much confidence to apply myself in the midst of any uncertainty a school day could bring. We're given invaluable training in which I'm able to refresh myself and be more equipped with tools and knowledge as a music educator.
The principals have been our biggest supporters during this shift to online teaching. I know my principal in particular, he really made it clear to the staff that we were going to keep music going. We were going to find a place in our limited schedules to fit in music every week for these students. And I don't think it could have been done without that support.
During this pandemic, our strong relationship walking hand in hand with schools, districts, and teachers has enabled us to maintain top-notch instruction.
Our music teachers are trained in bringing core content into the music room.
ETMLA has taught me to teach beyond the curriculum, to find meaning in the world today and current events, and to apply that in seeing my students for who they are.
What a story. ETMLA has not missed a beat in 15 years. Even in this challenging year, children continue receiving...
Still playing in the background as far as sound. It's okay. I was going to say the same thing. What a great video. That was super awesome. Yeah. Compelling, moving. Oh, man. I just was like, it just came to my mind. It's like, we as a human species are so incredible. The fact that we had something so impactful hit us in March and we all came together, and in our own little, ways, we all started like a new startup. Like, how do we continue to do what we're doing in like such a brand new way? Like, how are we going to give them, like you said, like egg shakers with rice inside? And we're just so innovative and creative. And you guys have really brought that home and really highlighted how you guys made that transition. And there's a village behind every great movement. And I saw all the happy faces of your team, and wow, I'm sure you guys have a fun time, even though as challenging as it could be, or is and can be at times. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that video. That was incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, really, it's such a resilient team. And I think because inherently artists are creative and innovative, and we're always pivoting. And so, whether, I've had probably more 15-hour, 20-hour days, a string of them these last 9-10 months than ever in my life. And, but when you are, I think, in it with others, like, I feel emboldened to, step into that and, doing this with a team that is so dedicated. It's tremendous. We can move mountains in this way. But yeah. And again, thank you to what you guys do, because that's, it does truly take a village to keep this going.
Absolutely. And we have one of our partners and funders on the call now as well too. And she sent Affirmation your way. She just said that she just loves the parallels between both music and the visual arts, give the parallels that they give to the students. And so that's much of your language is the same thing that they do at Art Trek. And so we're just so thankful that we have people like you giving to our students daily. So thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you. And it really, I mean, it makes it easy when you know the impact that arts and music is making. I mean, it's, when the pandemic has exacerbated isolation and has exacerbated perhaps the gaps in access and equity, this is where I am so proud of our schools and districts for saying, you know what? No, we keep music going because it is about equity and access. It's about ensuring that our students and the children and families still stay connected, and it might be the thing that gets them to school, to sign up onto their Zoom classes, to stay connected, and it is their social emotional outlet for so many of them. And we hear stories from some partners that say in our ETMLA music programs, the attendance has now restored to even before pandemic numbers versus our schools without music. They're struggling with some of the attendance. And so, this is where we step in and we say every child should have music. No child should be deprived of music education.
No, not at all. And I'm going to ask you real quick. It wasn't sort of on our preparations, but do you know possibly the names of the six, I think it was six, right? 6 Catholic schools that you guys do provide, just so we can kind of have that be highlighted here as well?
We've got Our Lady of the Holy Rosary, Dolores Mission, Resurrection School, St. Michael's, St. Francis Cabrini, and Guardian Angel.
Oh, that's all over. Oh, wow. That's great. And hopefully those numbers went up in those schools as well too, just to, hopefully encourage, just the continuing of all this. Yeah.
Yeah, they're staying connected, and we continue to send supplies their way. We've created DIY music tablets and sent expo markers, and they continue writing music. And also, we continued our instrumental program. So it really is a Herculean feat that takes everybody, from the coordination, the lessons that, again, everyone's pivoting. Mm-hmm. But I think about music and learning music is inherently about the process. You can't just go, I'm going to memorize, a piece of music. It's the process of analyzing the melody, analyzing harmony, analyzing patterns in the music. And so the process is, so important. And I think when artists lean into the process, it's sort of like, that's life. That's how you do life. It's, what are the steps to problem solving? What are the critical thinking, elements that are applied because now, music teaches that, the arts teach that. Mm-hmm. And how do you do it in a way that, you're thinking about the other person? Because of empathy, it really, it's just, music is everything. So,
I 100% agree. Maybe a lot of people on the call don't know, but before I got to CEF, I was actually a professional dancer. So, I mean, music just fills my soul, and I was able to express it in a different way, which is through movement. And I 100% agree with you. It is the key ingredient to living a fruitful life in so many aspects. So that's amazing. And so as the hour mark always creeps up on us, I do want to ask a few last questions before we take off. And Victoria has another beautiful video to share with all of you. So everyone, please sit tight and don't go anywhere. So these last couple questions, are there any exciting and upcoming events that you and your team are working on? And if so, and they're open to the public, let us know, because we'd like to go.
Yeah, there's several. So we added at-home family hour events, and these are opportunities for artists, from our local community and others who are more well-known to engage with our families. And so we did a couple. One was with the composer of Disney Pixar's Coco, along with the guitar player of Miguel in Coco, Federico Ramos, along with singer Holly Cedillos, who, has sung on so many soundtracks, including Star Wars. And so, it's an opportunity for families, students to go behind the scenes, whereas previously there might have been a barrier for folks to attend some of these events, if they were in person, but now to reimagine what this looks like in a way that's more accessible to everyone. And so, so that was a fun one. We are looking at another family hour with Frozen, the artist from Frozen, and the composer of Frozen, Christoph Beck. And then one with artist and composer Siddhartha Khosla from This Is Us. So those are coming up, dates to be determined, but
Okay.
Our website, etmla.org. Sign up for our e-newsletter. And then our festival, which happens every year, it's our annual Music Unites the World Festival, brings together our children from our schools to make music together. And it's a way to unify our communities. You know, kids from Compton making music with kids from Chinatown and the San Fernando Valley to really showcase, you know, just how universal music is and that, you know, it brings people together. So that's the time in May.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure we put that link up so everyone can kind of save it, bookmark it, and kind of check on their schedules. And as the weeks progress to hopefully see the date that we can all maybe attend one of these hours. How special. And so we have a few more interactions from our guests as well, too. And this is kind of what we do. And what makes me happy is that everybody is able to kind of interact and have this hour where we can all come together. So one of them is Jerry from Art Trek as well. She says, we have a relationship with every one of those same Catholic schools. So cheers to the principals who make music and art such a priority in their curriculums. So, I mean, that's amazing. Those students that are attending those schools are just getting so much more than possibly, you know, some people may expect Catholic schools to provide. So I know sometimes it's just like, oh, religion class and it's just school, but wow, how many resources and services that our students are exposed to, I think is so beneficial for them, their families, and their future. So, and then we have a question too: is how can more of our parochial schools become involved with ETMLA?
Well, reach out to us, and we do have an application process, and it really is more for us to get to know your community and to know that, you know, it's not being driven by one person, but that there really is a consensus that, you know, the school is ready to bring on a full comprehensive music program because, as I mentioned before, it really is about sustainability. It's about ensuring that the school can one day take ownership, because that's where it will be long lasting. That's where all that hard work will be manifested, is when a school can really embrace it, and they might not know and have the tools for what a sequential, comprehensive, quality music education program looks like and where to begin. And so this is where we come in and we, you know, get them set up, and ultimately the goal is for that long-term sustainability. And we know it's hard, especially as things, again, it's a dynamic world, but we know that together, you know, schools can do this. So yeah, our website, etmla.org, there's an application process. Reach out to us, and we'd love to hear your story.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so what we're going to put that up, and Sandra actually put that into the chat. So a lot of you may have seen that pop up. So make sure you access that, bring it to your web browser, save it, and you can learn more about ETMLA and all the happenings that are going on this year and to come. So I want to remind everybody, you have a wonderful video, but I'm going to make a few announcements first, and then we'll literally close out our episode with the fun spirits and the amazing smiles and singing of your students. There through education, through music. Okay. So here we go. We're going to share a screen so you guys can all see, and same announcements as usual, but we do want to make sure that we take this time to offer this. So if you feel compelled to give, please do remember that 100% of your donation to CEF will support tuition awards. And with that, we just want to give a big nod of thanks to all the Catholic schools across the Archdiocese of Los Angeles for their dedicated work, especially during this time. I know all the administrators and principals and pastors are working super hard to make sure that their school is accessible to everyone who wants to enroll. And, you know, it's increasingly difficult to offer the amount needed for the financial aid. So if you guys can, that would be amazing. Next as well too, if you'd like to learn more about ETMLA, you can visit them here at www.etmla.org. And I know that Victoria and all of her staff and team will be able and be ready to facilitate any questions that you have for them. And before we close out this morning, I want to let you all know that Coffee with CEF will be airing next Wednesday, February 24th at 10 a.m. as usual, with students from both St. Mary's Academy and Bishop Conady Our Lady of Loretto High School, along with their administrators, to showcase the successes and achievements of their career pathways and educational track programs, and most importantly, how these programs are preparing them for college. So please remember to RSVP on our website, just as you did for this episode today, cefdn.org/coffee with CEF. And this is the time. Victoria, could you please show us that lovely video? And also just thank you. Thanks for sharing your heart and sharing everything that you do and all the work and just the love that you put in what you do.
Thank you, Johnny. So I actually have two. I have one from a student's voice. I don't know if you want me to show both, if there's time.
Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. We're going to hear from one student, and she's a beginning cello student. And so again, how is she doing during this time of doing distance learning music? So here we go. And then we'll end with a virtual choir that's from a well-known musical, Newsies. But here we go. Here is our friend, Renata.
My name is Renata Raya. I'm in 4th grade and I go to Providence. When the pandemic hit, my mood went down. I was a little disappointed because I thought we wouldn't be able to learn music, or it wouldn't be just the same as in person. It turned out that my school figured out a way to do Zoom classes or meets. So I was a little happier. Every week I have something to motivate me to go to school. My teacher is Miss Verardi. She's a great teacher. Thank you for keeping the music playing.
Finally, seize the day.
Open the gates and seize the day. Don't be afraid and don't delay. Nothing can break us, no one can make us. Give our rights away. Arise and seize the
Wasn't these videos, each and every one, I've been watching with you for the first.
Okay.
Yay. Thank you so much. What a delight. I am so happy that I was able to see that. That's amazing. And yes, I guess just for everyone, if you want to unmute and give your thanks and any affirmations for Victoria. Victoria, thank you for joining us. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you. It was my honor, my pleasure to be here. Yes, and reach out if you have any questions. My email is vlanier@etmla.org. So, you know, please.
Lanier. Yes, that's great.
Thank you all for what you are doing. And, you know, it takes a community, it takes a village. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully we can have you on maybe in a later season and just see how things are going with ETMLA. We're so happy to see that growth. So thanks, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Be well, everybody.
Yes, thanks everyone for showing up. We appreciate it.